I am the saintly female supporting character in an apocalypse novel, but I've given up. The female lead is my cousin, Song Qingya. The male lead is Ji Yan, a top mercenary I risked my life to save. Because I was soft-hearted, I ended up helping a lot of people along the way, but those very people I helped, after receiving my kindness, turned around and were won over by my cousin Song Qingya's charm, behind my back. They called me a do-gooder and said I was holding the team back. What the hell? Without me, this do-gooder, would you still be standing here in one piece? After being reborn, I now possess hundreds of billions worth of supplies. I only want to lay low until the apocalypse is over. As for those ungrateful wretches who repaid kindness with malice, isn't it that you all look down on do-gooders? Let's see. Without the do-gooders' help, how will you get yourselves out of trouble? Here, eat this, for old time's sake. Since we're relatives, I'll give you one last pack of instant noodles. Don't come bothering us again after this. The pack of instant noodles hit the ground, kicking up a small cloud of dust. Through my blurry vision, I watched a slender figure walk farther and farther away, thinking of my family, who had already fainted from hunger. I fought through my dizziness and reached my hand toward the noodles, but just as I was about to touch them, a foot came down mercilessly on the back of my hand. What was my warning to you last time? You still dare to show your face in front of us? The man's voice was mocking, and he pressed down harder with his foot. I looked up and saw his face clearly. A somewhat handsome face came into view, but the cold malice in his expression ruined any beauty it might have had. I was already so dizzy from hunger that I could barely think. With the last shred of my consciousness, I pleaded for mercy. Back then, I saved you. Between the haze of my fading senses, I heard the man's demonic laughter. Save me, did I ask you to save me, huff, huff. I sat up abruptly in bed, gasping for air. The bright light slowly drove away the fear in my heart. I looked around at the familiar surroundings. An unbelievable guess rose from the depths of my mind. Rebirth. I had been reborn. Immediately after, a flood of unfamiliar memories rushed into my mind. It was half an hour later before I finished sorting through them. The world I live in is a doomsday novel. The female lead is my cousin, Song Qingya. The male lead is Ji Yan, a top mercenary I risked my life to save. As the saintly female supporting character in this apocalypse novel, I would help many survivors because of my soft heart, but the central theme of this novel is, in the apocalypse, kill the do-gooder first. The readers love a cold, heartless female lead and worship a ruthless, merciless male lead, and I, as the saintly supporting character in this book, was written off the stage amid readers' relentless curses. Thinking of this, I covered my face and let out a bitter laugh, tears flowing uncontrollably. Song Qingya, Song Dapeng, Ji Yan, Lu Yunzhou, Sun Xiaoyong, which of them hadn't received my help, but they forced my family out of the group, leaving us to freeze and starve to death in the icy wilderness. But clearly, the jade pendant space was mine. Even the supplies that the entire group consumed at the beginning were provided by my family. I roughly wiped the tears from my face. In my past life, I was also confused. Why did Song Qingya receive everyone's love and adoration? Why did those people, after receiving my kindness, turn around and repay it with malice, trying to destroy me? Now I realize, it was all just the effect of plot armor, because they are the main characters. Even if they are bloodthirsty, selfish, and inhuman, there are still plenty of people willing to worship them, and anyone with a shred of conscience gets pushed out. I took a deep breath and suppressed the resentment in my heart. Since this world doesn't need a saint, I won't be one anymore. Let's just see. Without this saint's help, how will those ungrateful wretches manage? The piercing pain was still assaulting my consciousness. I felt around the bedside and found my phone. The screen lit up. September 11th, 23:53, 5:23 a.m. In my past life, the zombie virus outbreak happened at noon on this very day. That means there are only 6 hours left until the zombie virus outbreak. Realizing this, everything went dark before my eyes. Remembering everything I'd suffered in my past life, I didn't have time to think. I quickly pulled out the jade pendant that I always wore around my neck. After pricking my finger with a needle, I pressed it firmly against the pendant. If I didn't have memories from my past life, I never would have guessed that this cheap, plastic-looking pendant was actually a boundless storage space with the ability to keep things fresh. The contract required only a drop of the host's blood. In my past life, Song Qingya had found my jade Pendant by chance, I don't know how she learned the contract method. When I wanted the pendant back, Song Qingya said, Ran, I want to give the pendant back to you, but the space has already bonded with me. My uncle's family got what they wanted and still pretended to be gracious, saying that since we were relatives, they would take care of my family from now on, but their so-called taking care meant that after taking my family's space and supplies, they kicked us out of the group. In my past life, worried about my family's safety, as soon as the zombie virus broke out, I drove straight toward my hometown. Along the way, I spent a lot of money to hoard a truckload of supplies, but unfortunately, all those supplies ended up benefiting strangers. Song Qingya said it was safer to keep the supplies in the space. My parents foolishly believed her and gave her everything. The result was that my uncle's family ate and drank like royalty, while my family of 3 had to beg for a single pack of instant noodles. I shook my head, pushing away the memories of my past life. There are many car rental platforms online, but time was short, and I didn't have time to filter through them. I chose a 9.6-meter box truck, then located the nearest wholesale market nearby. The space has a preservation function, so I didn't have to worry about expiration dates. The only problem was that I only had a little over 300,000 yuan in savings, which probably wouldn't be enough. Trucks were constantly coming and going from the wholesale market. As I drove my truck through the various shops, nobody paid me much attention. First, water, 50 barrels of drinking water, 200 cases of bottled water. Next, various foods, 50 bags each of rice and flour, 100 bags of various grains, 100 jin each of rice noodles, vermicelli noodles, egg noodles, long life noodles, and hand-pulled noodles, and various instant foods, 50 cases of instant noodles, 50 cases each of self-heating hot pot and self-heating rice, 10 cases each of eggs, milk, ham, bread, chocolate, 8 treasure congee, luncheon meat, and canned fruit, 15 cases each of oil, salt, soy sauce, vinegar, hot pot base, and various sauces, and my favorites, hot pot and malatang. I went all out and bought 100 bags of frozen meatballs to stock up. Since the space can't store live animals, I bought 50 each of processed chickens and ducks, and 2 each of pigs, cows, and sheep. As for various daily necessities, toothbrushes, toothpaste, towels, toilet paper, sanitary pads, shampoo, body wash, I only bought the necessities. The 300,000 yuan in savings wasn't enough. While the shop owners were loading the goods, I borrowed from every online lending platform I could find, a total of 162 million yuan. As the shop owner was loading the goods, he asked me if I was opening a supermarket. I smiled and didn't reveal anything about the apocalypse. In my past life, I'd already done enough of the saintly act. In this life, I just want to protect my parents and help them survive this apocalypse. Soon, the water and electricity would be cut off. Cooking required fuel, so I bought 50 bags of smokeless coal, 20 cases of portable butane stoves and matching canisters, 10 cases of solid alcohol blocks. After storing them in my space, I bought heating and cooling equipment, solar panels, a generator, diesel, candles, a drone, and high-powered flashlights. After buying all these things, I checked my phone. 5 hours and 50 minutes had passed. Just then, my phone rang. Hey, Ran. When are you coming home? It was my mother. I told her I'd be home in just over 3 hours, then hung up. After storing the goods from the truck back into my space, I looked back at the wholesale market, which was now only a few kilometers behind me. If the apocalypse truly arrived, the supplies in the wholesale market would undoubtedly be like a treasure trove. Having experienced the cruelty of struggling to survive on the edge of starvation in my past life, it was hard not to be tempted by these supplies. I parked the truck near the wholesale market and started scrolling through my phone. Within minutes, my phone exploded. More accurately, the trending topics on my phone exploded. No matter which video I opened, I saw scenes of zombies eating people. Relevant authorities issued emergency instructions, telling residents to seek shelter nearby and stock up on supplies appropriately. Afraid that my phone's ringtone would attract zombies, I sent a message to my parents telling them not to worry, then turned off my phone. The roar of zombies went on for a long time, only gradually subsiding after nightfall. The night was thick, and occasionally a few zombie figures could be seen, but most of the zombies had already chased after survivors and left the area. I'd already been here once during the day, and I remembered the layout of each shop storeroom clearly after the zombie virus outbreak. Most shop owners fled in a hurry, not even having time to close their doors. That made it convenient for me to collect supplies. I started from the easternmost end of the wholesale market and looted supplies shop by shop. First, I disabled the surveillance cameras to avoid leaving any evidence behind, from rice, flour, oil, and grain to various daily necessities and crop seeds and fertilizer. All of them went into my space. My only regret was that there were no suitable weapons. Thinking back to the thugs who blocked my way on the road home in my past life, I pressed my lips together and took dozens of bags of smokeless coal out of my space and lit them. After the coal burned red hot, I stored it back into my space. The sky was starting to get light. I was still over 10 li away from Fong City. Along the way, everywhere I looked, people were looting supplies, supermarkets, convenience stores, farmers markets. All the shelves had been cleared out. Although the zombie virus hadn't spread here yet, panic had already descended when I was just a few kilometers from Fong City. Several large boulders suddenly appeared in the middle of the wide road. Seeing the obstacles ahead, my heart sank. Before I could even get close, several thugs jumped out impatiently. "You there, get out of the car now, or we'll get rough." I narrowed my eyes and realized I recognized these thugs. They were the same ones who tried to hold me up in my past life. One of the thugs tapped on my window with a baseball bat. "Stop looking around. It's just us here. Get out of the car, and maybe we'll let you live." The man's face was smug, certain that I, a woman alone, couldn't do anything to them. It was only the second day of the apocalypse, and social order had already broken down this badly. My face turned cold. Getting out of the car was not an option. With my small frame, I probably couldn't even withstand a single punch from them. I looked around. There were no passers-by, no surveillance cameras that would expose me. That made things easier. I slowly lowered the car window. The leader's expression relaxed, thinking I was giving in to fear, but the next second, the smile at the corner of his mouth froze. Red-hot lumps of coal rained down from above, hitting them directly. The air filled with the smell of burning. Screams rang out one after another. I pressed my lips together, restarted the car, and drove away. Killing them wasn't what I wanted, but if I had to get my hands bloody to survive this apocalypse, so be it. The neighborhood was under complete lockdown. I bribed the security guard with a case of 8 treasure kanji to let me in. Seeing that I'd returned safely, my mother's eyes reddened, and she held me tightly. My father patted me on the shoulder. Seeing my parents, the emotions I'd been holding in throughout the journey could no longer be contained. When my parents saw me crying, they panicked. Ran, what's wrong? Were you scared by those monsters outside?" I wiped my eyes and told them about my past life in the form of a dream. I'd only gotten as far as the part where our family was thrown out of the group when my mother's temper flared. "What? They ate our food, drank our drinks, and then had the nerve to call us a burden." She pointed at my father and scolded. "I've always said your big brother is no good, but you never believed me." My father hemmed and hawed. Ran said it was just a dream. How can you take things that happen in a dream seriously? Hearing that, my mother calmed down a little. Ran, what else happened in the dream? Tell us in detail. To make the dream more convincing, I recounted what was about to happen. In the dream, on the evening of the second day of the apocalypse, a resident in the building across the way turned into a zombie and infected over a dozen other residents. On the third day of the apocalypse, the zombie virus spreads through Fong City, and our neighborhood loses water and electricity. A month after the apocalypse begins, the entire world falls. The number of surviving humans is less than 1% of what it was before the apocalypse. By the end of it, my parents' expressions were beyond shock. Outside, the sky was growing dark. After a simple meal, none of us went to the bedroom. We sat with our ears straining for any sound outside. Today was the second day of the zombie virus outbreak. Whether the dream was real or not would be determined by what happened in the building across the way. At a little past 9 in the evening, a blood-curdling scream suddenly came from the building across the way. Immediately after, the property management sent a message to the neighborhood group chat. "Attention, residents, a zombie virus carrier has been detected in Building D. Please keep your doors and windows tightly closed and do not go outside." As soon as this message came out, everyone panicked. What? Wasn't our neighborhood locked down already? How did someone still get infected? Oh my God, Building D. Isn't that my building? This is terrifying. A zombie is already scratching at my door. Where is the rescue team? Why aren't they here yet? Soon, Building D was surrounded by a special operations team. Several young figures rushed into the building without hesitation. Human screams and zombie roars soon faded into silence along with the sound of gunfire. Before long, a new message appeared in the neighborhood group chat. My child suddenly has a high fever that won't go down. Does anyone have fever reducer for children? Someone quickly replied, I do. How do I get it to you? Time passed minute by minute, but the person asking for medicine never responded. Then someone posted another message in the group. I heard that a high fever is an early symptom of the zombie virus. On various online platforms, discussions about zombies had reached an unprecedented fever pitch. Shocking. The world's largest passenger transport hub was attacked by zombies, affecting tens of thousands of people yesterday afternoon. A large number of zombies appeared at a laboratory in Country H, raising suspicions of a virus leak. According to the latest foreign reports, water sources in a certain area have been contaminated by the zombie virus, and tens of millions of people have developed symptoms including fever and confusion. Seeing more and more news online, my parents finally couldn't sit still. The situation in Building D had already confirmed the truth of the dream. After some discussion, they quickly made a decision: move. Right now, our current neighborhood is too crowded. If a zombie outbreak happens here, we won't even be able to escape. My mother held up her phone. I just checked. There's a 24-hour convenience store on the next street. If we go there now, we might be able to stock up on supplies. I cleared my throat and waved my hand. 2 unopened bottles of water appeared on the coffee table. I forgot to mention, I have a storage space. I've already stocked a huge amount of supplies. My parents exchanged a glance, their eyes lighting up. How much? Enough that the three of us won't have to worry about food or drink. My mother excitedly grabbed me and started storing everything we owned, food, supplies, everything, into the space. Not even a single grain of rice was left. Those ungrateful wretches treated you so badly. This time, they're not getting a single thing from us. My father patted my shoulder with mixed emotions. Don't worry, this time, your father is on your side. After packing up, we went downstairs. Just as we reached the underground garage, a figure approached from the opposite direction. Second uncle, second aunt, where are you all going? Hearing the confusion in her voice, my parents' expression stiffened slightly, afraid their odd behavior might catch Song Qingya's attention. I quickly spoke. We're almost out of supplies and worried it won't be enough, so we're going out to stock up. Cousin, do you want to come? At the mention of going outside, Song Qingya quickly waved her hands. There are zombies everywhere out there. I wouldn't dare go out. If you're going, please be careful. I nodded casually and watched her disappear around the corner of the stairs. To be honest, our relationship had been pretty good growing up. After all, our families were relatives, and we lived in the same neighborhood. But then the apocalypse came. Everything changed. Not until we left the neighborhood did I learn that my parents, without telling me, had secretly bought a new house. We were going to wait until it was decorated to surprise you. My mother pulled out the keys from her pocket. My father smiled. This is a newly built neighborhood. Very few residents have moved in yet. Even if a zombie outbreak happens, it'll be much safer than our old place. It's just that the timing was too tight. The decorating isn't finished. Looking at the walls, which only had a single coat of whitewash, I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Not finished decorating was an understatement. They hadn't even started. Under the cover of night, my father and I put privacy film on the windows. After some discussion, we decided not to put anything in the living room. Even the shoe rack that had been outside the door was stored away in my space. This was to create the illusion that no one lived here. Day 3 of the apocalypse. Before dawn, the neighborhood group chat exploded. Holy crap. I heard scratching at my door earlier. When I got up, there was a zombie. Forget the hallways. Look outside the neighborhood. I sent that zombie in the security uniform, our neighborhood's Uncle Zhang. How did he get infected too? Message after message flooded the group chat. My mother got a call from a neighbor. There are too many zombies outside. Xiaoyong and I are scared staying at home alone. Could we come stay with you for a while? The caller was Grandma Zhang from next door. Her son and daughter-in-law both worked in other cities, so it was just her and her grandson at home. In my past life, we felt sorry for the two of them and took them in, but later, I realized they were truly awful. Not only did they demand the best of everything, but they also constantly stole food from the kitchen, and when caught, they were completely unapologetic. Our Xiaoyong is still growing, why can't he be hungry? We've been neighbors for so many years, you're not going to complain about us taking a little bit of your food, are you? Remembering these unpleasant memories, my mother looked at the phone like it was garbage and immediately blocked both Grandma Zhang and her grandson. In the evening, the water flow from the tap grew weaker and weaker. I stored the last water container into my space. By now, I had filled hundreds of water containers from the tap, enough to last our family for the next several years. The power had long been cut. The once brilliant city went completely dark. Stop your work and come eat. My mother came out of the kitchen carrying a bowl of tomato and shrimp paste noodles. The bouncy shrimp balls were coated in a rich, flavorful sauce, so delicious I almost swallowed my tongue. Delicious, my mother smiled and added more shrimp paste to my bowl. Eat as much as you like. That evening, Song Qingya sent me several messages. Ran, how are things out there? Did you come back with the supplies yet? I pretended not to see them and told my parents not to reply either. The grudges were from a past life. As for certain people and certain things, there was no need to engage. The apocalypse itself would teach them a lesson. Day 5 of the apocalypse. Early in the morning, I received a notification from my smart lock. Someone was trying to force it open. On the surveillance feed, the figures of my uncle's family were unmistakable. I was surprised for a moment. The plot seemed to be changing. In my past life, they'd never tried to break down the door. TSK, who breaks into someone's house in the middle of the night. My mother glanced at my father. My father stayed silent. No matter how my mother ridiculed him, he didn't say a word. In the past, he might still have felt some brotherly affection for my uncle, but now, whatever remained was gone, wiped out by my uncle's actions. A few minutes later, the lock broke. Song Qingya pushed open the door excitedly, only to freeze in shock. Oh, how can this be? My uncle followed close behind, his usually friendly face now twisted with malice. Where are the supplies? My uncle's behavior was too unusual. I watched the surveillance feed without blinking, afraid of missing some key detail. Song Qingya was still urging him urgently, Dad, call second uncle's family right now. Ask them where they went. The space is in the jade pendant Song Qingran is wearing. We need to get it before she discovers the space. In my past life, Song Qingya only discovered the space a month into the apocalypse, but this time, the zombie virus had barely erupted and she was already rushing to find me. There could only be one reason. Song Qingya had been reborn too. Thinking this, I curled my lips and turned off the surveillance feed. The space was Song Qingya's greatest asset. In her past life, relying on the space, she had lived a life above others, accustomed to being worshipped. In this life, without the space, even if I didn't lift a finger, the vast difference in status would torment her until she broke. Day 10 of the apocalypse, more and more zombies were gathering outside the neighborhood. Among the massive zombie horde, occasionally a familiar face could be seen. My father had been observing with binoculars for a long time when he suddenly exclaimed in surprise, "Hey, isn't that Xiao Hu?" Hearing this, my mother took the other pair of binoculars. It really is Xiao Hu, such a good young man. How could this happen? Xiao Hu was a member of the rescue team, responsible for delivering supplies to various neighborhoods. No one knew how he had gotten infected. That afternoon, a message appeared in the neighborhood group chat. Dear residents, to better meet everyone's needs, please fill out detailed information about yourselves and your families, so our staff can allocate supplies to you in a timely manner. Seeing that the message was posted by someone labeled Neighborhood Property Management, my father picked up his phone to fill out the form. Don't fill it out. My father jumped in surprise. My mother smacked me lightly in annoyance. What's with you, child? Why are you so jumpy? I tried to explain patiently. If you submit that information, everyone will know that someone is living in Unit 1602. Building F. But if we don't fill it out, and the authorities issue some kind of order, won't we be left behind? My father asked with a frown. His generation was used to following instructions. Seeing my parents still hesitating, I sighed and had to play my trump card. If outsiders find out about my space, I'll be taken away for research. As expected, this finally frightened my parents. My father quickly tossed his phone onto the sofa, not filling it out. Forget it, nothing is as important as our daughter's safety, at night, I set up a table inside my tent and leaned over it. sorting through data on the residents in the neighborhood according to the statistics from the group chat. Currently, 28 households had moved into the neighborhood. Among them, Building A had 3 households, Building B had 5, Building C had none. As for our building, Building F, 2 households had registered their information. Unit 701 and Unit 1202, the apocalypse had just begun, and most people still had hope in the government, so the authenticity of this list should be reliable, but that didn't rule out the possibility of someone using it to do evil. Everyone had just moved into the neighborhood and wasn't familiar with one another, with only a few households per building. Unless driven to absolute desperation, no one would risk attracting zombies' attention by going door to door to steal supplies. Unfortunately, this list exposed everyone's location. If it weren't for the lessons of my past life, I probably would have exposed myself without a second thought, just like the other residents. But human nature is the most unpredictable thing in the apocalypse. Selfishness, greed, indifference. Having experienced the betrayal of my past life, I no longer had the courage to gamble on human nature. In this life, I just want to protect myself and my family. I took a deep breath and stored the compiled data in my space. Day 17 of the apocalypse. Ever since Xiao, who from the rescue team was infected and turned into a zombie, our neighborhood hadn't received any new supplies for almost a week. Seeing that the rescue wasn't coming anytime soon, the property management at everyone in the group chat. According to official announcements, the zombie virus situation will persist for a considerable period. To help everyone get through this difficult time together, the property management will collect supplies from each household and then redistribute them. Households that do not comply will face mandatory measures. Please support the property management's efforts. As soon as these messages were posted, several residents raised objections. What? We don't even have enough food for ourselves, and now we have to donate it. Exactly. What kind of time is this to be collecting food? Isn't this going too far? We pay so much in property fees just for you to bully us like this. I scrolled further down. There were many objections. Some even threatened to report the property management. No one was foolish enough to think they'd get their supplies back after donating them, but the property management team, perhaps banking on the fact that no one was in charge, also took a hard stance. Let me be clear, if anyone does not comply, they will bear the consequences themselves. A few hours later, residents of Building B came into conflict with the property management team. A newborn baby was thrown from a 6th-floor balcony. After hitting the ground, it struggled twice before quickly falling still. The baby's mother, unable to bear the shock, also jumped from the balcony. The smell of blood spread, stirring up the zombies outside the neighborhood. The property management took photos and posted them in the resident group chat. Remember, this is what happens to those who resist. It was both a threat and a warning. Seeing the photos, our family fell silent for a long time. Faced with these inhuman beasts, anger and curses suddenly felt useless. Listening to the sounds of robbery and violence from downstairs, we didn't dare make a single extra sound, afraid that the property management might discover we were there. From noon until the sun began to set, the crying and begging in the neighborhood never stopped. All 28 households were victimized, without exception, except for our family of 3, who weren't on the list. Good thing Ran stopped me from filling out that form. My father's hands trembled as he turned off his phone screen. My mother sat on the sofa in shock for a long time, then finally wiped her reddening eyes. Ran, keep the evidence. If the apocalypse ever ends, those beasts must pay for what they've done. That night, I tossed and turned in my tent. The events of the day had hit me so hard that every time I closed my eyes, my mind filled with the image the property management had posted in the group chat. After a while, zombie roars seemed to fill the neighborhood. I sprang out of my tent and looked down to see a dark, dense mass. It was all zombies. My scalp prickled with fear. I immediately ran toward my parents' room. Before I could even knock, the bedroom door opened from the inside. My father was staring intently out the window. My mother sighed and casually handed me her phone. Oh, what a mess. On the dimmed screen, a single line of text stood out vividly. You beasts, not a single one of you will escape. My father beckoned me over, gesturing for me to watch the scene downstairs. In the darkness, the dense zombie hordes, as if summoned, surged toward the property management building. I was confused for a moment, then quickly understood. Someone used themselves as bait to lure the zombies to the property management building. My father nodded, his expression complicated. That person had used their own life to avenge their wife and child, but at the same time, they had also left a much bigger problem for the other residents. A large number of zombies had entered the neighborhood. From this moment on, everyone had to be even more careful to avoid attracting their attention. Day 21 of the apocalypse, a young couple from the building across the way jumped from their 16th floor balcony. All the zombies surged toward the sound as if injected with adrenaline. It happened too fast. By the time we noticed, one of the residents had already gotten up, staggering, and was crawling on the ground alongside the zombies, devouring the flesh of their loved one. This wasn't supposed to happen so quickly. The violent acts of the property management team had accelerated everything. I watched for a moment, then looked away. My past life had drained me of all my kindness. The first rule to surviving safely until the end of the apocalypse is, don't mind other people's business, because you can never be sure whether the person you risk your life to help is actually human, or a wolf in sheep's clothing. Day 30 of the apocalypse. Overnight, the temperature suddenly dropped below freezing. I lazed in bed for a while, then yawned and walked out of the bedroom to find a steaming bowl of meatball soup already on the table. The fragrant meatball soup, paired with crispy, golden brown beef patties. One bite, and my mouth was full of flavor. After breakfast, my father started fiddling with the radio. The internet had long been cut off. The radio was our only connection to the outside world. A few minutes later, static crackled from the radio due to the effects of the zombie virus. The government has established doomsday safe zones in several cities, including Jianghai City, Sioux City, and Bayou City. The first doomsday safe zone is expected to be completed in half a month. Citizens who have survived, please protect yourselves and await rescue. A doomsday safe zone. My father paused for a moment, then asked, Ran, what were the safe zones like in your past life? I took a bite of an apple and shook my head. I don't know. In my past life, we never even made it to a safe zone. Our family was thrown out of the group and starved to death. Do you think we should move to a safe zone, or stay here? Stay here, of course. I'd already considered this for a long time. Safe zones could provide supplies for survivors, but wherever there are people, there are conflicts. Our family didn't lack supplies, so there was no need to risk having the space discovered by moving into a safe zone. It's not that the government would definitely covet my space, but there are too many unknown forces in this world. In the apocalypse, those forces would only become bolder and more reckless, and I had no power to fight against them. I might even drag my parents into danger. That was something I absolutely didn't want to see. Day 55 of the apocalypse, a drone flew into the neighborhood. Dear citizens, we are members of the T-601 National Rescue Team. We will now lure the zombies out of the neighborhood. Please gather your belongings and come downstairs as soon as possible to meet us. The same message repeated several times, then, blaring music filled the air. The zombies, attracted by the music, scrambled to get out of the neighborhood. More and more survivors gathered downstairs with their luggage. My parents watched them with envy, but then they remembered that we had everything we needed here. We were actually living better than the survivors in the safe zones, and quickly made peace with it. I held my binoculars, hoping the people downstairs would leave quickly. The rescue team members all had shaved heads. Maybe they did it for convenience, but looking down from our window, they looked like bouncing meatballs. Their leader had a scarred face and bulging muscles, clearly someone with explosive strength. I moved the binoculars carefully, a little confused. The closest safe zone to Feng City was Tianqi Base in the neighboring province. According to the government's latest announcements, the construction of Tianqi Base wasn't finished. Why were rescue team members here already? Where would they take the survivors? Before I could figure it out, the rescue team members suddenly raised their weapons and started hacking at the survivors beside them. How can this be happening? My mother covered her mouth, stumbling backward in shock. My father took a pair of binoculars too, his brow furrowed tightly, but they were too far away, and the windows were soundproof. We couldn't hear what the people downstairs were saying. We could only guess from their actions. 1, 2, 3. The men in the neighborhood had their throats slit. The women were dragged like livestock into the building across the way. A few minutes passed. Someone stopped his knife, still hungry for more. Boss, there are too few people here. It's not enough fun. The scar-faced man toyed with a phone he'd picked up, a cruel smile curling his lips. Isn't that a dozen or so fish still left to catch? Bring them all. You'll have your fun today. Watching the thugs walk toward Building F, my mother's voice trembled. What do we do? They're not coming for us, are they? My father stayed relatively calm, probably not. We never filled out that property management form. They shouldn't be coming for us, over the next few hours. I experienced firsthand what it felt like for time to crawl, using the list from the resident group chat. The men went door to door and dragged another dozen residents downstairs. Vast pools of blood spread across the ground. The smell of blood made the zombies outside the neighborhood restless. But the men paid no attention. They cheerfully lit a fire, expertly set up tents, cooked instant noodles, and opened tins of meat. Even though they clearly didn't lack food, driven by greed, they still killed and plundered. As for human lives, in their eyes, they were worthless, just tools for their amusement. That night, our family of 3 didn't dare close our eyes. My father and I took turns sitting by the window, watching the activities downstairs. Thankfully, the men left the next day. The neighborhood fell quiet again. Day 86 of the apocalypse. Snowflakes swirled outside the window, quickly forming a thin layer on the ground. 2 pieces of news came over the radio, one good, one bad. The good news: after 2 months, Tianchi base was finally completed. The bad news: the zombies had evolved. Not only were they more agile, but their hearing and vision had also been greatly enhanced. Our family of 3 became even more cautious, but the degree of the zombies' evolution still exceeded my imagination. Day 72 of the apocalypse. Before dawn, I was woken by my parents. They covered my mouth, gesturing for me to stay quiet, then showed me a video they'd recorded on their phone. In the pitch-black night, a long ladder appeared on the outside of Building E. Looking closer, it was actually formed by hundreds of zombies piled on top of each other. The video continued. After reaching the 6th floor, the zombies didn't continue climbing. Instead, they furiously rammed against the security bars on the balcony. The only things that could attract zombies were blood and flesh. My heart tightened. I whispered, "Is there a survivor on the 6th floor?" My father shook his head, also keeping his voice low. The residents on the 6th floor were killed by those thugs. The only thing alive there is a pet dog. The zombies had started coordinating just to hunt a pet dog. Had they already evolved their own consciousness? I was startled by the thought. Day 93 of the apocalypse. Several military armored vehicles entered the neighborhood, with heavy firepower. The zombies wandering the neighborhood were quickly eliminated. Then, the doors opened, and several special operations team members stepped out. They held firearms, wore camouflage uniforms and helmets, and were tall and imposing. As soon as they got out, one of them pulled out a loudspeaker clipped to his belt. "Attention, citizens, we are members of the T-17 Special Operations Team from Tianchi Base, here to escort you to the base. Survivors, please pack your belongings. Everyone departs in 30 minutes. Hearing that the rescue team would leave in half an hour, my father grew anxious. Ran, maybe we should go to the base. Under military protection, we'll definitely be safer than we are on our own. My mother also looked at me nervously, waiting for me to decide, and honestly, they weren't wrong. The evolved zombies weren't something ordinary people could handle anymore. Who knew how much further the zombies would evolve? Maybe one day, they'd be able to detect our presence just from the flow of air in the neighborhood. If that happened, they'd be unstoppable. Thinking about the possibility, I made my decision immediately. All right, we'll go to the base, to avoid drawing attention. I only carried a backpack containing some bread and water. My parents came empty-handed. Seeing that people were finally coming out, the special ops team breathed a sigh of relief. Some survivors were better than none. At least their efforts to wipe out the zombies hadn't been in vain. The armored vehicle's interior was very spacious, easily holding dozens of people, but I never expected to run into acquaintances here. Without my space and supplies, Song Qingya could no longer maintain her aloof, icy goddess persona from her past life. Disheveled and filthy, she looked even worse off than the other survivors. Ji Yan had still been saved, but this time, the person who saved him was Song Qingya. Without my meticulous care, his injuries hadn't healed. In fact, they seemed to be getting worse. Old Madame Zhang still took her grandson to steal from others, but this time, no one indulged them. In the chaos, someone broke their hands. I felt secretly satisfied, but didn't show it on my face. Lu Yunzhou was still missing. Then I'd have the whole set of ungrateful wretches from my past life. Ever since I'd gotten on the vehicle, Song Qingya's gaze hadn't left me. My mother pulled me into her arms. My father sat up straighter, blocking Song Qingya's line of sight. The journey from our Neighborhood to Tianqi base was about 10 hours, late at night. I was dozing with my eyes closed when I felt a shadow fall over me, then, a cold hand touched my neck, just as I expected. Song Qingya was going after my jade pendant. I pretended to be woken up by accident, looking surprised. Cousin, why are you trying to take my pendant? Hearing the commotion, my mother instinctively pushed Song Qingya away. Song Qingya didn't say anything, just muttered something under her breath. I smelled blood and suddenly understood. Song Qingya was afraid she wouldn't be able to get the pendant, so she was trying to forcibly contract the space. She'd even already cut her hand in advance. Tisk, it's covered in blood, disgusting. With a look of distaste, I simply tossed the pendant on the ground and stomped on it. Crack, the pendant split apart. Song Qingya was stunned. You destroyed the space. I pretended to be confused, pressing harder with my foot. This was a cheap trinket I'd found at a wholesale market jewelry stall. It was made of glass, so naturally, it wasn't very sturdy, but in Song Qingya's eyes, this was the precious space she so desperately wanted. Nearly hysterical, she crouched down to pick up the pieces, but fake was fake. No matter how well she pieced it together, it couldn't magically create a real space for her. According to Tianqi base's policies, survivors who entered the base were assigned rotating jobs. Those who performed well had the chance to become formal employees. My mother, skilled at cooking, was assigned to the cafeteria. My father and I, lacking any impressive skills, were sent to sweep the streets. We had to be out before dawn every day, but our family was already very satisfied with this life. At least we no longer had to live in constant fear of sudden zombie attacks. Day 113 of the apocalypse. After another snowfall, the zombies mutated again. According to the latest research, the zombies had not only developed consciousness but could also obtain the energy they needed by devouring their own kind. That meant that humans were no longer the zombies' only food source. At the same time, this news was reported all over the world. Around this time, a new theory emerged internationally. It claimed that the zombie virus wasn't a disease but a way for humans to evolve. The argument was that after being infected with the zombie virus, a person could gain physical strength and agility, and as long as they had enough flesh and blood, a person who turned into a zombie could live forever. Eternal life was a tempting idea. Regardless of the era, in pursuit of immortality, people in other countries had even voluntarily injected themselves with the zombie virus. As an internationally top-tier mercenary, Ji Yan's physical condition was beyond compare. After he recovered, he was quickly selected for the base's defense team. Unable to obtain the space, Song Qingya clung to Ji Yan like a lifeline. But Ji Yan had no use for this dead weight. The disgust in Ji Yan's eyes was unmistakable. I knew then. Song Qingya was finished. One morning, Song Qingya was found dead by the trash heap, her body in disarray. Before I could even report her, Ji Yan was arrested and sent to mine coal in the western mountains. Song Qingya had been wearing a hidden camera, planning to record herself and Ji Yan in bed to blackmail him, but fate had other plans. The footage became the most damning evidence against Ji Yan. Day 256 of the apocalypse. Zombies occasionally attacked the city, but with heavy firepower, none of them posed a real threat. One day, the rescue team brought back several more survivors. Recognizing the faces in the crowd, my mind raced. That scar-faced man who'd pretended to be a rescue team member, and Lu Yunzhou. How did these people end up together? But no matter what, if they were together, nothing good would come of it. I didn't dare gamble with the base's safety. I immediately went to find the defense team commander. The vaccine development was at a critical stage, and the authorities were very strict. When they heard that spies might have infiltrated, they immediately activated high-level security. The scar-faced man and Lu Yunzhou were apprehended before they could even finish registering their personal information. Not taking any chances, the defense team thoroughly interrogated the entire group of survivors, and sure enough, they found something. A woman shifted uneasily, clutching a child tightly to her chest. In the 30-degree heat, the child was bundled up completely and utterly silent. Stop. At the sharp command, the woman's voice trembled. Sir, my child just has a cold. Don't give me that. Open it up. The woman refused, but the inspector was already suspicious. He wasn't about to let her go. In the struggle, the blanket came open, revealing the child's face, gray-white pupils. A zombie. The inspector was startled, and everyone around stepped back. The woman fell to her knees, still holding the child. Sir, please, just let us go. The child is so young. He Won't hurt anyone. The inspector's face reddened with anger. That's total bull. A zombie that hasn't eaten human flesh has no reason. Your child can still sleep. That means you fed it flesh before you even got here. The woman tried to run, but the defense team caught her. Some people looked sympathetic, but no one spoke up for the mother and daughter. The peace at Tianchi base had not come easily. Anyone who tried to destroy it didn't deserve sympathy. Day 301 of the apocalypse. The zombie vaccine was successfully developed. After vaccination, the zombie virus could no longer infect humans. On the day of the commendation ceremony, my name appeared on the award list. Song Qing ran. My mother grabbed my hand, her face full of disbelief. Am I seeing that right? Right. They should be giving the award to me, my father said, scratching his head. Over the past several months, my father had been promoted from a temporary street sweeper to a full-time employee, one rank higher than me. Tianchi base used a point system. Daily work earned points deposited into personal accounts. The base had been the first to develop the zombie vaccine, and many countries were seeking partnerships. They'd become very wealthy. This time, I was awarded 1 million points and a shop in the commercial center. The reason, reporting 2 spies who had infiltrated the base, the scar-faced man and Lu Yunzhou. At the time, the vaccine development was at a critical stage. These 2 had been sent by an opposing faction to sabotage the research. They were carrying concentrated zombie virus, intending to poison the base's water supply if they couldn't destroy the research. Fortunately, they'd never had the chance. Day 350 of the apocalypse, Tianchi base released the second version of the zombie vaccine, version 2.0. After vaccination, zombies could regain their reason and have their hunger suppressed. This greatly reduced conflicts between zombies and humans. Day 386 of the apocalypse. Tianchi base built on their success and developed version 3.0 of the zombie vaccine. After vaccination, zombies could be turned back into humans. After over a year, the zombie virus was completely wiped out. Various bases rolled out policies to help survivors return to their hometowns and rebuild their lives. After the apocalypse ended, I found the time to return the supplies I'd taken from the wholesale market. They all had labels. If anyone looked closely, it would be easy to trace them back to me. Rather than living in constant fear of being caught, it was better to solve the problem at its source. Besides, I didn't lack supplies. Even before the apocalypse, I'd stockpiled nearly 2 million yuan worth of goods. The neighborhood gradually began to come alive again. I curled my lips and looked out the window at the warm sunlight. Thankfully, we had all made it to a new beginning. After listening to this story, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your ideas in the comments. I look forward to hearing your voice.